Stage is yours.
Wow. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. Thank you for such a warm welcome. I've absolutely no idea what Andy just said. I haven't got a clue how he introduced me. Was it good? Was it good? Yeah, okay. So you're looking forward to hearing what I've got to say? Yes. Can I just ask you all, please, just to stand up for a second, please? You've been sitting down for a little while. Can I just ask you all to stand up, please? And take whatever, if you've got something in your hands, take it out of your hands, please. Now, I want you to just give yourselves a huge round of applause. A bit more, louder. Okay. Now, please, the reason I wanted to give you guys a round of applause, and I wanted you to have a round of applause, two reasons. The first one is because I have never seen so much energy in a room at 6 o'clock on a sunny Friday evening, a group of people who want to help improve themselves and are here to learn and grow rather than being in the pub. So, has my microphone just stopped? Has it? Okay. Can you hear me still? I'll just talk really loudly, okay, until I get another mic. So, on being here and investing time in yourself. Is that okay? Is that okay? No, it's not. I'll use the other one. Keep standing. No. Can you? That's not working. This is working now. Yes? Woo! Okay. Excellent. Right. Now we're ready to get going. So think of a moment that you are incredibly proud of. Something that made your chest puff out, something that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, something that you personally did that you're really proud of in the last 12 months. Just think of something for a second. Bring yourself back to that moment, those emotions. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Think of something. Everyone got something? Okay. Turn to someone next to you and share that moment with them. Share the proud moment that you had with them. Fantastic. Okay, has everyone had a chance to share it? Still going? Everyone had a chance to share something? Okay. So I'm going to be a nightmare for the sound man here because I'm going to move all over the place. Okay, guys, please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Thank you. So I just wanted to test something as well. Clearly, I'm the only English speaker on the agenda today. And I apologize for that. I apologize for the fact that you're going to have to listen to me speaking in English rather than Romanian. For those who've got interpreter headsets, I hope that's working okay, and I hope the interpreter can understand my English. But I just did a test. You clearly all understood the two instructions I just gave you, so I'm going to assume that you're okay with understanding what I'm saying. So I just want to thank Andy and the team for inviting me over to be here, and also for organising this type of event. And they've been incredibly accommodating and helpful, and you know, they're a great team, aren't they? Let's have a round of applause for the team that's supporting this event, actually. I love this music. I haven't ever been in a speech where I've got music over the applause. It's fantastic. So actually, one of the team was incredibly helpful to me earlier, a young lady called Tio. When I came in, I was a bit early and they weren't ready. And Tio said to me, she said, we're not ready yet, but there's a lovely balcony out there if you want to go and smoke. I said, well, I don't smoke. She said, well, do you want to start? You see, so they're being accommodating all the time, aren't they? So I'm going to talk to you about a number of things. I just want to share with you, I got an email through at lunchtime today from a friend of mine, a guy who has prostate cancer. And 18 months ago, he was diagnosed that he would only live for 2 months. And a lot of what Andy's been telling you today isn't just about personal development, it will actually save your life as well. So I got an email for him. So he's now 18 months, he's gone through his chemo, going through, but he knows his life is not going to be much longer. He knows, he's about my age, he's about 52. But he sends out great quotes, and he sent out an email today because he's off. So this is really, so Andy talked about the physical. If you're going to start with anything first, start with the physical, didn't he? Is that what he said? I kind of picked that up in Romania. But start with the physical. If you're going to start with anything, start with the physical piece first. So he started running. When he got diagnosed with prostate cancer, he started running. 18 months later, he's still running. And next week, he goes off to the Marathon des Sables, which is 250-kilometer run across the Sahara Desert. And he sent this message out today. It was a long message, but I took a quote from it. It said, I am not here for a long time, but I am here for a good time. Who recognizes that? Who's here for a good time? Because we've only got one of these, haven't we? We've got one of these lives and we're here for a good time. Fantastic. So let me get you to, it's difficult to imagine this, but I'm going to try and get you to imagine it. I'd like to imagine the coldest you've ever been. The coldest, now I know it's a hot room, your ears are burning, you've got noses are hot, everything's hot in here. Try and imagine the coldest you've ever been. I know it gets down to about minus 20, minus 30 in Romania, is that right? That sort of temperature? So imagine the coldest you've ever been. Now try and imagine, so that's minus 20, minus 30. Inside of a freezer that you have at home, you know, your home freezer is minus 15 degrees. That's pretty cold, isn't it? Now try and imagine minus 55 degrees centigrade. Minus 55 degrees centigrade. Sorry? Good conservation. Good conservation, yeah. Imagine picture yourself in that cold, the coldest you've ever been. The silence, the feeling you have, of the pain on your skin and on your face. So keep that in your mind if you can. And then I'd like you to imagine a distance of 500 kilometers. Distance maybe between Bucharest and another city, 500 kilometers. What think in your mind 500 kilometers. Now imagine walking and running in minus 55 degrees centigrade, pulling 30 kilograms of weight behind you for 500 kilometers. Just picture that in your mind. And I'll show you a few slides just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And I'm hoping this is going to work. No, it's not. I have to switch it on. Let's try it now. Here we go, fantastic. And we should have some music now, shouldn't we? We practiced this earlier. Yeah. Oh, we got some other music instead. It gets less complicated after this first bit. We'll use the music that we've got playing. Okay, so these are some pictures from the Arctic, from 500 kilometers, minus 55 degrees centigrade. Pulling everything you need to survive for that time. This is my song. Okay, thanks, Sue. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it's like out there. There weren't many photographers out there, so there's not lots of photographs of the event itself. But I'm going to share with you some experiences I've learned from endurance sports and from business over the last 10, 15 years. The event I did, which I'm going to link this to, was in 2015 in the Arctic area of the Yukon, which is the northwest part of Canada. And it was minus 55 degrees, and it was 500 kilometers, the event itself. The reason I play that song, by the way, and it's quite an important song for me when I'm speaking, is it's a trigger song. Does everyone know what a trigger song is? A trigger song? It's a song that creates certain emotions in me. When I hear Blur, Song 2, I know, get ready, you're on it. This is it, you're now going. So that's why I have that song at the beginning of the speeches. So, let me introduce me. And the way I'm going to introduce me is slightly different. I'm going to introduce you to two timelines. So I'm going to introduce you to a career timeline and a sporting timeline. And I'll explain why I'm using the timeline in a moment. So if you look at the top timeline here, the top timeline is my career. I started in 1984 fixing typewriters. Actually, I wonder whether there's anyone in the room who remembers what a typewriter was? Who used one? Okay, so there wasn't many hands went up then. Okay, that shows how old I am. So the typewriter, so I fixed typewriters. Then I moved into sales, and I went into sales management, and I went into sales leadership, and I went into be a sales director, and then I ran sales for Europe for a large corporate. And I retired 2 years ago. You'll notice the two significant moments. 2 years ago, I was in the Yukon. 2 years ago, I retired, or I decided to go and do something different. I haven't really retired. So the other timeline that's on there is my sporting timeline. I was in the military reserves in the British Army for 12 years, and I did lots of physical things there. I did my first marathon around 2003. 2005, I did a sub-3 hour marathon, which was a big achievement. In 2006, I did an Ironman. 2009, I went out to the Sahara Desert and did a 250-kilometer run across the Sahara Desert. 2013, I did another run across the Sahara Desert. I ran round Mont Blanc, 100 miles, so 180 kilometers around Mont Blanc up and down the mountains around there. I've done that twice. And then in 2015, I went out to the Yukon. So why do I share a timeline with you? This was something a coach used with me several years ago. When I was trying to work out how I achieved the next big goal, one of the things he asked me to do was look at how have you got here? What are the key milestones that have got you here? Now, how often do we spend our time looking forward rather than looking what we've already achieved? I would hazard a guess that out of this room of 200 people, you've all achieved masses of things. Whether it's in your personal life, in your business life, in your sporting life, whatever it is, there will be things you've achieved on the way. And the reason it's important to look backwards down your timeline is because when you set a big goal, it doesn't seem so daunting. It doesn't seem so far away. Because when I was a typewriter engineer in 1984, did I think I was going to run sales for Europe for one of the largest IT companies in the world? No, of course I didn't. It was completely unachievable. There was no way I could see that as a goal. It was too big. But looking back, it's much more easier to see, much how I got there. When I did a marathon in 2003, did I think I'd be doing 500 kilometers in the Arctic? No, of course I didn't. It was too big a goal. But if you're standing here looking at where your next big goal is, it might seem unachievable. Actually, I meant to ask at the beginning, how many people have got, I probably know the answer to this actually, because one of the things that's great about being here today is I'm with people who are all high achievers. I'm with, and it's fantastic being able to spend an evening with people who are all high achievers. But let me ask you a question. Who's got a big goal they want to achieve? Big goal. I'll just give the time for the interpreters to get that through. Big goal. Hold your hand up high if it's a big goal, because you should be proud of having a big goal. And I'll tell you you'll know if it's a big goal. Okay, you put your hand. You'll know if it's a big goal. Does it feel scary? Yes. Does it feel like it might not be achievable? No, it's not big enough. You need to make it bigger. If it's not scary, then it's in your comfort zone. You can achieve it. You want something that's scary. You want something that's going to push you. So you've all got big goals. Now, if you then look at your timeline, and do this in your own time, think of your timeline. Think of what you've already achieved. That big goal might seem a long way away. But it's not that far if looking at what you've already achieved. So that's the timeline. I just thought I'd share that with you. While I was out in the Yukon, I had a lot of time to think. I had a hell of a lot of time to think. I was on my own for 6 days and 19 hours. Now, if you imagine the most remote part of Romania, the most remote forest in the cold of winter, being on your own for 6 days and 19 hours, that's basically what I did out in the Yukon. So I had a lot of time to think. So how could I turn that thinking into something positive? On the second night when I was out there, I'd got through one of the most traumatic evenings that I've ever had in my life, and I'll tell you about that a little later on. And I thought, why is it that I keep achieving these big goals? What is it? What are the things that I do that enable me to achieve big goals in my sporting life or in my physical life? So I broke it down, and I broke it down into 7 steps. So this here, you probably recognize this. So this is the formula for achieving a big goal. If you write that down and you follow that formula, you will achieve a big goal. So the sum of p plus the square root of p plus p to the factor of p over p with the average of p plus or minus p cubed is how you achieve a big goal. So it's okay, you got that? Everyone got that? 7p. So I understand how E equals mc squared. I've got the big goal formula. The other thing I've added into this, listening today, and knowing Andy and talking to Andy over the past year or so, is there are 4 pillars that make that up: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And the spiritual one, I wouldn't have thought came into it, but I'll share with you an experience I had out in the Arctic where the spiritual piece did come in. So that's the formula for achieving any big goal. So let me take you through the P's. The first P, and this is the most important. This is the reason why I've seen people fail to achieve big goals. The reason that people give up on the journey, the reason that people, when it gets a bit tough, they stop, is they don't have a big enough reason why. They don't have enough purpose behind what they're doing. So let's look at the different types. I can't get too far towards the back because it sounds like the mic's going to go. But you're okay at the back. I just wanted to check you're okay. So the purpose, your why. There are two types of purpose. There's your internal purpose. Why are you doing it for you? Why are you trying to achieve this big goal for you personally? Is it to push you? Is it to find out what you're capable of? Is it so that you grow? So think about that big goal and think about what are the internal reasons you want to achieve it. For me personally, when I was out doing these big physical challenges, I want to know where my breaking point is. I want to see fabulous parts of the world. I want to be challenged. I want to be pushed. So there's some personal reasons for me. I'll tell you about core beliefs in a minute. But there's a bigger reason why. Internal reasons will get you so far, but we will give up on ourselves. When it gets hard, we'll find excuses. We'll give up on ourselves. We will not give up on other people. So you need to think about external motivators as well. When you're building up your reason why you want to achieve your big goal, what are your external reasons? Let me give you a couple of examples. So there's a guy I know who, I ran a running seminar recently, and he was talking about an event he did in the Alps. It's the 100-mile race I was telling you about earlier. And when he finished it 2 years ago, he crossed the line with his children. So it was 32 hours, something like that. He'd been running, he'd drained, he was exhausted, and he crossed the line with his 2 little children in his hands. And he cried. And he was incredibly emotional. His kids loved it. They gave him a big hug. Next year, he didn't finish it. He dropped out. His kids said to him, "Dad, we were really looking forward to crossing the finish line with you." So when I spoke to him in January this year, he said, "Even if I break a leg, I am going to cross that finish line because I want those kids to have that experience and have that feeling. And I want that feeling of crossing the finish line with them." But he wanted to do it for his kids. I'll give you another example. There's a lady I know who's an incredible ultra runner. When I did an interview with her and I asked her what is it that keeps her going when it gets hard? And she does some unbelievable events. She makes mine look like they're tiny 10K runs. What keeps her going? She said, what keeps her going is she doesn't want to let her team down. The people who are out supporting her on the route, the people who are following her online, she doesn't want to let them down. And that kept her going. It wasn't about her own internal reasons. It was about what it meant to other people. For me personally, people see me as someone who doesn't give up. People see me as someone who does big challenges and pushes through and achieves those big challenges. What keeps me going is I can't let them down. Because even if I inspire someone to do something a little bit more than they're doing, by me doing something like the Arctic or the desert or whatever I'm doing, if I inspire someone to do something a little bit more that pushes themselves, that drives me, because I've helped them. One of the reasons I'm here today is I hope that during this session you can go away with at least one thing that you can use that's going to push you or enable you to achieve your big goal. So I can't stress enough, if you get nothing else out of this talk, I cannot stress enough the importance of having a really strong purpose, a really strong reason why you've got to achieve that big goal. What's the internal reason? And more importantly, what's the external reason? Layer up that external reason. Charity's a good external reason, isn't it? Raising money for charity, whatever you're doing, raising money for charity is a good external reason. And you'll see, many marathons, people do marathons, first time they've ever done 42 kilometers, and they do it to raise money to help other people. And what keeps them going on those cold mornings in training is they're getting up because they don't want to let those people down. I was trying to raise money for a little girl in Africa. She was born without ears, and she was born without the ability to hear. So she couldn't go to school, and she couldn't learn. And in Africa, if you don't learn, you don't go to school, that's not a great place to be. So I had the opportunity to raise money for her so that she could have an operation, to have her ears put on and have the inner ear put in so she could hear. Now, in the hard times, in the middle of the night, when I'm on my own, I was thinking about her, not on her all the time, but on one or two occasions, I was thinking about Grace, was her name, and you'll meet Grace later on in this session. So, the first P in the success formula is purpose. The second P, which is just as important, is preparation. Specific, thorough preparation. Preparation is all about moving you on this continuum from fear to confidence. If it's a big goal, you're scared. It's fearful. It seems fear's a word we don't use as achievers, do we? We feel anxious. Anxious is just another word for fear. Okay, so be honest with yourself. If it's a big goal, and it's a big goal that's challenging you, there's fear in there. You're scared. That's okay, because actually that's good. We do some of our best work when we're pushed and when we're on our edge. So moving from fear to confidence is what preparation is all about. Specific preparation is absolutely vital. Right? If you're training for an event in the Arctic, you want to be doing preparation that is relevant to that. So it's no good running around the streets of London when you're going to be spending most of the time walking. If you're training for an event in the desert and you're going to be carrying 10 kilograms on your back, you need to be running with 10 kilograms on your back. If your big goal is to be a speaker, you need to be doing preparation in front of audiences speaking. If your goal is to learn a language, you need to be doing specific preparation. It needs to be specific. I used to do a lot of martial arts. I still do martial arts. In martial arts, if you want to succeed in sparring, in competitions, you have to do specific training. Me running 25 miles or 40 kilometers is not going to get me ready for sparring in martial arts. So I'm going to let you into a little secret, though, of how you can accelerate your preparation. You can accelerate your preparation by talking to people who've already done it. There are very few things that you will have on your goal list that someone hasn't already done. Go and find out who's done it. This is a great room, actually. This room and the stuff Andy's teaching and sharing with you, it's a fantastic opportunity to learn from people who are already doing what you want to do, or can point you in the right direction. We live in a fantastic time, don't we? We've got YouTube, we've got blogs, we've got podcasts, we've got books. There is so much information out there to help you get ready for your big goal, to help you prepare, to tell you how to prepare as well. So it's really key, preparation. If you don't prepare specifically, then you're less likely to succeed. But it's all about moving you along this continuum from fear to confidence. These two books on the left here, by the way, are two guys who did the Yukon Arctic. There was Mark Hines and Dave Berridge. Mark Hines was a completer. He wanted to finish the race and enjoy the journey. Dave Berridge was a competitor. He wanted to do as well as he could in the race. And so this is one of the things that I would urge you, is when you get information from people, you have to apply what you want out of it and make it your plan, your preparation. So my first goal is always to complete whatever I start, but I'm very competitive. And even if it means I'm going for 80th place and I'm trying to be 79th place, I will compete for it. So I'm a competitor as well. But I'm not going to compete so much that I don't complete. And I also want to enjoy it. You know that phrase that I shared with you in the beginning? It's about having fun on the journey, not just enduring the journey. So I learned from those two guys, and there's tons of preparation you do for this type of event. Unfortunately, the UK doesn't get that cold, so you can't train in the freezing cold, but you can train specifically. The other thing that's really important about preparation, I must share this with you, is you need to push yourself in preparation. You have to take yourself outside of your comfort zone while you're preparing. Let me give you an example. As part of the preparation I did for this event between Christmas and New Year, so the holiday season, everybody's partying, everybody's out. It was a Saturday night. I started Saturday morning. I walked 80 miles, what's that, 130, 140 kilometers along a canal, pulling a tire, carrying my kit with me through the night into the next day. I went through one of the big cities in the UK called Milton Keynes. Does anyone know Milton Keynes? Anyone? No, it's not very notary. So Milton Keynes, at Christmas, when people are turning out the pubs and turning out the parties, it's quite an interesting place to be when you're walking through pulling a tyre behind you. Let me tell you, you get some funny looks and you get some funny comments. But I did 80 miles. I did the 130 kilometres. I did it in 26 hours. And when I did that, and this is what I mean by pushing yourself in training or in preparation. If you push yourself, it gives you moves you along this scale from fear to confidence. Because I knew I could do 80 miles. I knew I could do that. That had given me loads of confidence. So you've got to push yourself in training as well, in preparation. So the third P. So you've got your purpose. You've done your preparation. It's all about the plan. So if you jumped in a car, sitting in Bucharest, you start your engine, and you want to get to another city in the country. You drive out the car park, you take the first left, you take the first right, you take the next left. Are you going to get to your destination? By chance, you might get there. What do you need that's going to help you get to where you want to be? What do you need? A plan? Okay. Google Maps. So you need a map, don't you? You need a map, you need a GPS, you need something that's going to help you get to where you want to be. If you start a journey without a map, you're a fool, aren't you? You've got very little chance of succeeding. So you need a plan. And the plan, the challenge with a big goal is it's scary, it's unachievable, and it's too big for the brain to cope with, so you've got to chunk it down into small pieces. If you want to achieve any big goal, whatever it is, let's say you wanted to learn a language, and I wanted to learn Romanian. If I said I want to be fluent in Romanian in 6 months' time, that's just a goal I couldn't get my head around. But what I could get my head around is learning 20 words a day. Being able to speak a phrase after the first week. So chunking the goal down is absolutely vital when you've got your plan. Your plan needs to be thorough, it needs to be specific, but you need to be able to chunk it down. Now so this is my plan for before I stepped over the start line in the Arctic. It was to keep going for 2.5 hours, it was to drink water every half hour. I wanted to cover 50 miles or 80 kilometers in a single day so that I was making progress. I had a plan. I had it broken. And in fact, the plan broke down even smaller as I got further into it. At one point, I was doing 14 minutes of walking and 1 minute of sleeping. 14 minutes, 1 minute. So every hour was 4 chunks. That's how much I had to chunk it down later on. But taking your plan and chunking it down is vital. So, purpose, preparation, plan. The fourth P, the hardest one of all. This is the one where most people don't make it. This is the one where most people don't make that step. And that's to actually make the step over the start line and commit yourself to achieving that goal. You can have the biggest reason why, you can have a great preparation, you can have a great plan, but if you don't step over the start line and commit to what you want to achieve, commit to that big goal, and by the way, Life's too short to keep coming up with excuses why you're not going to do it. You know, when you get to my kind of age, you start realizing that you're running out of time to achieve all the things you want to achieve. So don't wait to step over that start line. Don't make lots of excuses or reasons of why you need the things you need in place. You know, I need to have this in place, before you step over the start line. And what happens when you step over the start line? This is a picture, by the way, at the start of this event. That's how cold it was. If I blinked my eyes, they froze shut, and I had to hold my hands on them like this to defrost them. It was so, so cold. I was scared to death at this point because I've got to live and survive on my own for 6 hours. It was 8 days I had. I happened to do it in 6 days and 19 hours. But what I noticed, and this came out when I did some coaching afterwards, what I noticed is there was a change in me. So I'm going up to that start line, I'm scared, and here's a picture of the start line actually. I'm scared, I'm uncertain, there's all these worries going through my head, but as soon as I stepped over that start line, my eyes came up, my chest went out, and my emotions changed, my mindset changed from I might do this to I must do this. There is no option now. I'm now committed. I'm now going. Does anyone get what I mean with that? Anyone had that feeling? I must achieve this. When you really, really want to do it, you step over that start line, you move from might to must. And it's a great, it's an incredible thing, but you've got to be able to do that. You've got to, there's an old story which I'm sure all of you have heard about the Turks that invaded invaded Greece. And when they landed on the beaches, they burnt their boats. There was only one way forward, it's through the Greeks. Now, I'm sure some historian here will tell me it wasn't the Turks, it wasn't the Greeks, but you get the point, right? So the point is, once you're committed, you're committed. There is no other way. So that's a key step. And lots of the planning you do and lots of the things you do will get you to that point, but that's a key step. So then once you're going, so one of the things I learned in the military was a plan never survives engagement with the enemy. Anyone heard that expression before? A plan never survives engagement with the enemy. Doesn't matter how well your plan, you've got to be perceptive, which is the 5th P. You need perception. You have to pay attention to what's going on, and you have to pay attention and make decisions and then take action. So let me tell you the story of the first day of the event. So this was me approaching the marathon mark. This is at 42 kilometers. So I'm approaching the marathon. I'm feeling good. It's getting cold. It's about minus 35, but I'm feeling good. I got there in about 6 hours. So that was quick. That was faster than I thought I'd be. I'd already adapted the plan. You remember it said 2.5 hours? I adapted it to 2 hours because 2.5 hours was too long in between breaks. But instead of a 15-minute break, I made it a 10-minute break. So it was 2 hours, 10-minute break, 2 hours, 10-minute break. So I was 6 hours to the marathon part, which I was pretty pleased with, walking as fast as I could. So I then headed off into the night. The next checkpoint where I needed to get to was about 85, 90 kilometers. I headed off. I thought I can be there by 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I left the marathon about 4 o'clock, 1 or 2 in the morning. And I was feeling good. But as the evening went on, I started getting tired. I started getting drained. It started feeling really, really cold. I didn't know what temperature it was at the time, but it got down to minus 55, the coldest they've ever had it in that part of the Yukon. But I kept going. I thought, I'm not seeing this checkpoint. I'm not getting to I have no idea how far I've gone. You know, it's no good. These watches are no good in the cold. They're no good when you've had them on for several hours. They're great if you're running a marathon, but once you've gone past that, the battery dies. So I didn't know how far I'd gone. So I had to make a decision. I was tired, I was drained. I had to make a decision. I'm going to stop. So I made the decision to stop, which is not an easy decision in these temperatures, on your own, in the middle of nowhere. Go back to the forest in Romania, the most remote place. That's what it was like. But I made a decision to stop. I made a decision to put my tent up, to get my sleeping bag out, to get in, get my clothes off in the sleeping bag, because those of you who are outdoor people know that you need to take your clothes off in a sleeping bag, because when you get out, you're going to get cold. But that's pretty scary at those temperatures. But I made the decision to do it. What I didn't realize at the time was it was the best decision I'd made out of the whole event. By the way, there wasn't a cameraman there taking a picture of me doing this. This was on a training evening. Just in case you're wondering whether it was a Bear Grylls moment where I had a cold camera crew with me. I didn't. I really was on my own. But that was a key decision, a key moment in the process. So you've got to be perceptive, you've got to pay attention, and you've got to adapt. The sixth P, you need a strategy for how you're going to handle the tough times, the pain. How are you going to handle the tough times? And if you build that strategy beforehand, it makes it a lot easier for you to implement when it happens, when you get to those tough times. So let me share with you a couple of things I learned while I was out in the Yukon. So I'll share with you a couple of funny stories. So the second night, I had a couple of hours sleep in my tent. I moved on, beautiful day the next day, lovely and sunny, beautiful shine on the snow, it warmed up a bit. What I didn't realize, by the way, was that first night, there were 40 people started the race I was doing. After the first night, only 6 people were still going. Everyone else had pulled out. One guy lost these 2 fingers on his hand through frostbite. Another guy lost half his foot through frostbite. It was an incredibly brutal evening, and everybody else was evacuated off the course. There was only 6 of us idiots still going. But it was a beautiful day. I went into the evening, and I started getting tired. Now, I don't know if you ever had this when you're really tired and you've not had much sleep. Has anyone ever hallucinated? Anyone ever seen something that's not there? Yeah? Don't worry, you're not mad. You're not crazy. Hallucination is something that happens when you get tired. I hallucinated once, actually, when I was in climbing up Mont Blanc. I was about 36 hours into a race, going up this mountain, sunny Sunday morning. And I was climbing up this hill. I was walking with someone, and I stopped to help this guy on the side of the trail. And I started talking, are you okay? Do you need any help? It's not far to the top now. Keep going. And the guy was weird, looked down, and he said, Neil, what are you doing? I said, I'm helping this guy here. And he said, it's a rock. And I'd spent 5 minutes talking to a rock, trying to help a rock up this hill. And it didn't need any help. But this evening, at the second evening in the Yukon, I started hallucinating like crazy. I saw cars, I saw people, I saw houses. I would see a building and I would go towards it quickly. It's like an oasis in the desert, I guess. But you see and they are real. The spookiest thing that happened to me, though, was I had like a movie screen block my route. And I was shaking my head trying to work what's going on with this movie screen blocking my route. So bear in mind, I'm in my Arctic gear. I've got this sledge behind me. It's freezing cold. I'm on my own. And I started trying to touch this movie screen to see if it was real. I knew it wasn't real. I knew it was a hallucination, but it was real in my head. I smashed through it. So when you're tired, when you're driving a car and when you're tired, what do? Pull over. Okay, that's not a bad idea, actually. Pull over, have a rest. Okay, what else do you do to stop yourself falling asleep? Open the window, get the cold air in. At minus 55, makes no difference. What else do you do? Sorry? Pinch yourself. Slap yourself around the face, pinch yourself. What else? Did someone say sing? Chewing. So you eat something, okay. For hydrate, all the things Andy told you about, hydrate. Has anyone ever turned the radio on and sung along to the radio? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So I'm not, it's not just me. So that's what I decided to do. To keep me going through that second night, I sung. And I sung every song I could think of. But the only song that I could remember, and I don't know whether you guys know this, I could remember all the way through, was a song called Nellie the Elephant. Does anyone know Nellie the Elephant? It was Nellie the Elephant packed her trunk and said goodbye to the circus. Off she went. And I sung it over and over and over and over again just to keep me awake. So I didn't veer off the trail and I didn't fall asleep. And that's what kept me going. So that was one of my pain strategies. One of my pain strategies was to sing. Second pain strategy. So I got through that night, pushed on the next day, got to about 140 miles. So what's that, about 220 kilometers, something like that. It was a really, really tough day because I didn't want to stop until I got to this checkpoint and I could put my tent up. It was really hard. It was beautiful, but it was really hard. And I put my tent up, and I got my sleeping bag out, I got inside, and I had a satellite phone with me. Got the satellite phone out, and I phoned my wife. But there she is. I phoned my wife, and I said, darling, this is incredibly hard. This is harder than I ever thought it would be. I've just gone through one of the toughest days. I'm absolutely exhausted. And she just said to me, she said, you're doing brilliantly. I believe in you. Keep going. That's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear. It's got the hairs on the back of my neck going up now. That's all I needed to hear. So one of the pain strategies I learned is, who are your cheerleaders? Before you set off on that journey for that big goal, who are your cheerleaders? Who's the person you're going to phone when you're doubting yourself, when you're uncertain, when you're not sure about the next step? You know, who are you going to phone? Who's in your dial list that you can phone? Think of that in advance. Set it up in advance. Who are your cheerleaders? Who are the people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself? Think about that before you step up, because you know they're there. So, strategy number 2. Strategy number 3, which is something I didn't realize at the time. So, we were carrying something. You can just about see it on my, well, you can't, it was here. So, I had a GPS tracker, which had green flashing lights on it. This GPS tracker was beaming up to the internet, and people were following my progress. What I didn't realize until later on was I never felt alone. Even though I was alone all that time, I never felt alone. Because I knew that these people, I knew because of phone calls I'd made, that people were following. There were hundreds of people following me from various parts of the world online to see how I was doing. And the reason, it was pure chance, it happened to be over my heart. But I felt I was getting love, I was getting support from all of these people. Every time these green lights flashed, it was someone sending me their best wishes. And I didn't realize it at the time, it was subconscious, but that's something I learned, that you've always got people there. Those people with mobile phones, put it in this pocket, right over your heart, because you know all your friends and all your cheerleaders and all your supporters are there supporting you. So, pain strategy number 3 that I learned. Pain strategy number 4, I kind of alluded to this a little bit at the beginning. So I mentioned that song 2 by Blur is a trigger song for me. So one of the things I learned is set up some triggers, set up some anchors. Those of you who've done NLP will understand this. Those of you who haven't done it, don't worry, it just means things that make you feel good. Set up the anchors, set up the triggers, and music is one of the best for that because it creates emotion, doesn't it? Music creates emotion. So before you're setting off on your big goal, what are the things you need? It might be a YouTube clip. It might be a quote. It might be something, but the triggers that you have that are going to help you get through the tough times. So I had in my pocket an iPod. iPod. Very old iPod. But I saved it for the last day because I was going through a real low. Batteries don't last long in the cold, so I could only use it once. So it was one of those, break the glass when you need it. So I had these songs on I call it my buzzing list, my buzzing music. And I put it on, the first song that comes on is Walking on Sunshine. And that makes you feel fantastic. Walking on Sunshine, and this was a cameraman. There was a cameraman hiding in the trees, taking a picture of me, dancing and jigging down the track, 270 miles into this race. I've got 4 or 5 of these of me dancing. The second song that's on there is Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead. Just saying it there's no stopping us. Ain't no stopping us now. So what are your trigger songs? Or your trigger quotes, or your trigger phrases, or your YouTube videos that you go to? Some of those motivational YouTube videos are fantastic. If you've got 2 or 3 that are your favorites, save them. And when you need it, put it on. When you need that inspiration, put it on. It's knowing those triggers before you set on the journey. So that's pain. The 7th P is perseverance. You've got to keep going. You just got to keep pushing. Remember your purpose. Go back to your purpose. Think of your preparation. Think of how hard you worked preparing for it. Think of who your cheerleaders are. But keep going. Don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up once you're on that journey to achieve your big goal. You might have to adapt your plan. You might have to use perception to change things. But don't give up. Persevere, and you will get through. So, I won this event, which was a remarkable achievement. I didn't expect that when I started. I won it, I think, because so many people dropped out. It wasn't because there were some faster people than me there, but they didn't make it through the first night. And it was an incredible feeling. It was one of the most interesting feelings when I crossed the finish line, because everyone was asleep. I had to knock on the door and say, I've finished, I've won. So the biggest achievement of my life was celebrated by me. Plus all those people who were watching me. Actually, though, interestingly enough, my GPS failed about 10 kilometers from the finish. And my Facebook page, which my kids were monitoring and my wife, crashed because there were so many messages. What's happened? Why is what? You're so close to. I didn't know this until a day later, but that was an incredible feeling. So, about 2 months later, now I'm hoping this video is going to work. I got this video. Let me see if we can get it to play. We might need to press the enter key just hit the enter key in the middle. That's it. No, it's not going to play. Okay, we'll move on. We tested it earlier. I got this video. This is Grace on the right-hand side. I wasn't expecting this. It was a video from Uganda, where Grace lives. And you can see she's got, I think she had one ear there on the right-hand side. But it was a message from her to say, thank you, Neil, for going through the Arctic and walking 500 kilometers through the Arctic. How do you think that made me feel? It was amazing. There were tears running down my face. It was. So how do I feel about achieving big goals? I feel amazing about achieving big goals. If I can help other people. This is what I mean about the external reasons, right? It wasn't about me achieving something and getting a medal. I've inspired people to do other things, and I helped this little girl. So, can we just try and move on to the next slide if we can? So the formula, the 7P formula. There we go, thank you. Purpose. Can't stress it enough. You need to know your reasons why. Your internal, your external reasons why. You need to prepare specifically and thoroughly. You need to build a detailed plan of how you're going to get there. Then the hard bit. You've got to pledge. You've got to step over that start line. You've got to turn all the planning, all the preparation into action. That's your pledge. While you're on the journey, be perceptive. Have a pain strategy. Have a strategy for how to handle the hard times, how to handle when things don't go right, and persevere until you achieve. Persevere until you achieve. I didn't refer much to these during the 4 pillars there during the speech, but you can see mental, emotional, physical. You can see how you build up your mental, emotional, and physical beliefs and your layers of capability when you're preparing, when you're getting ready. And you're using all of those when you're going through achieving your big goal. The spiritual one's interesting, actually, because it wasn't until about 6 months after I got back. I was doing some coaching with someone who's a great friend of mine. He was coaching me. And we were talking about the experiences I'd had while I'd been out in the Yukon. I said, well, do you know, it's really funny. On one of the evenings, there were two of us there. There were two of us walking in the dark and the cold in the middle of nowhere. And it was my physical body and my spiritual body. That's what I would say. You can call it what you like. But there were two of us, because my physical body was trying to make excuses. My knees are hurting, my ankles are hurting, my hips and back are hurting. My subconscious, my spiritual body, whatever you want to call it, was saying, you don't give up. That's not you. You're just making excuses. Keep pushing. And we were talking to each other. I wasn't actually speaking, but we were talking to each other. So that was where I learned that there is another element to this dimension that you can't really see. And you don't really see it until you really push yourself. That's the first time I've ever experienced that in all the things I've ever done. So I honestly believe, if you can't read that, it says, I believe you can achieve anything you want. I honestly believe you can achieve anything you want. Everyone in this room can achieve that big goal you thought of at the beginning. By coming here today, you're setting yourself off on a journey and giving yourself more chance of achieving that big goal. In 2007, I went to a similar event to this in London. And it changed my life forever, because it gave me some tools, and it gave me some ideas, and it gave me some beliefs and some strategies that I could apply. And it changed my life as one of the questions I always get asked at the end of this is, so what's your next big goal? When I was in the Yukon, I decided that I was going to leave corporate life after 30 years. I was going to retire. I was going to build my own businesses. And I was going to use what I'd learned, and I was going to use my energy, and I was going to use my experience, and all those 7 Ps, and I've used those to build up 2 businesses, which I've done now. So I've got a running business, which organizes long-distance running events, and I've got a business that does consultancy work, sales and leadership type stuff. So that was a key moment for me. It was a big decision to make that. I'd been putting that decision off for years, and I finally made it when I was out in the Yukon. I came back. There was no question. I'd already stepped over the start line. So, I believe you can achieve anything. Thank you for having me, guys. Andy, thank you for inviting me. Good luck. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.